Thank you. I have the honor and privilege today, on behalf of the Youth Exchange Committee, of introducing our two returning outbound students who have been away for a year, and they're going to tell you about their year. These two students, Ethan you've already met, and Julia you're going to meet in a minute, have something in common. They're both the youngest in their family and the second of their family to be a youth exchange student through the Rotary Club of York. And I'm very disappointed to announce that we don't have any more Foglemans or Taylors to send away. But we really appreciate your parents allowing us, your children, for 2 years. You guys want to come on up a little bit? I'll introduce you quickly. Our first speaker today is going to be Julia Taylor. She's a graduate of Dallastown, and she's going to be attending East Carolina University. She lived the last year in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and she's going to tell you about that. Her sister, Rachel, who was an exchange student 4 years ago, spent a year in France, and as I understand it now, is living down in Atlanta. And then, after that, I get to introduce Ethan Fogleman for the third time. You know, I was talking. Anyway, you've met Ethan. He spent a year in some province in Taiwan that I can't pronounce, so I just told him I'd say Taiwan. He's a graduate of York High, and as you heard, will be attending Temple. His sister Catherine spent a year with us about the same time as Rachel, same year, and she spent a year in Brazil. So now I'd like to introduce you to Julia.
Well, as you all saw, we have blazers, and I couldn't put all of my pins on my blazer because it weighs me down. I think Ethan's a little stronger, so he's got all of his. But yeah, so that's a Rotary tradition. So as you said, my name is Julia. I did go to Brazil for a year. I lived in São Carlos, which is close to Sao Paulo. So if anybody knows anything about Brazil, it's a really large city. So I lived in a smaller city outside. But I wanted to thank Rotary for all of the training, the support, the opportunity, the preparation, everything before, throughout the year, and after. They really do a lot for the students in the preparation. You get to talk to the students who have already gone. They prepare you for the challenges that are to come. They give you references and ways to handle some sticky situations you might get yourself into. And they debrief you when you come home. So you actually have reverse culture shock when you come home, and they try to do their best to bring you back to the States as best as they can. I did learn a lot on my year abroad, and I grew a lot as an individual. I made a lot of lifelong friends. I have people from all around the world who I'm hoping I'll be friends with for my life and go and visit them in Taiwan and Japan and all over Europe. And I'm thankful for Rotary for that. I also had the chance to bond with 3 different families when I was in Brazil. So I have 3 different families that I consider my home away from home. I have pets there that are my pets away from home. Little brothers and big brothers and people who are near and dear to my heart. Through Rotary, I have a better understanding of the world and of not just the culture in Brazil, but of cultures from all around the world. I went on a trip for about a month with about 50 exchange students. And I was sitting down with different people talking about, well, what's weddings like in your country? A wedding in India is very different than a wedding in the USA. So it's very interesting to see the different cultures and how we can all come together and be best friends. My Rotary Club in Brazil was definitely a lot smaller than my Rotary Club here. We had about 20 people in it, and it was all men. So I actually had another Rotary Club in my city that kind of adopted me that was all women because they had the boy exchange students, so we just kind of swapped. They were kind of like, what happened? Why didn't we do the opposite? So I actually had the chance to meet 2 different Rotary Clubs and bond with 2 different Rotary Clubs when I was there. A couple different cultural aspects from Brazil itself. The food is delicious. I mean, what else can I say? It's very good, but the times of days and the portion sizes and the way you eat the food is very different. Breakfast is almost forgotten, at least where I was. You had maybe a cup of coffee, an espresso shot, and a piece of bread, and lunch was the main event. So everybody comes home from school, everybody comes home from work, and you sit down and eat lunch together, and dinner is also sort of forgotten. So that was something that was very hard for me to adjust to. 7 o'clock at night, I haven't eaten in 7 hours, and I'm like, hey mom, where's dinner? And she's like, what? What are you talking about? So it was funny for them to see, you know, American culture, and how dinner is usually the bigger meal here. School was also very different. I went to Dallastown High School, which is a very large high school. You have to kind of fight your way to the next class because there's 500 kids in the hallway all trying to go to English 101. And in Brazil, you stay put. So I had about 20 kids in my grade, my entire grade, and the teacher moved around. So it was definitely nice for me. I was like, wow, I don't have to find the next classroom, you know, they're coming to me. So that was definitely very nice. There was only one girl at my school who spoke English. So they kind of found her wherever I was at the first month and were like, can you just go translate? Because at this point, nobody else knew how to speak to me yet or communicate. I was speaking Spanish with them because it's very close to Portuguese. So that was the best we had for a while. And I actually had the opportunity to sit down with this girl who spoke English almost every day and learn some of the language. So that was definitely rewarding for me. And the only other thing that was different about my school is I had to wear a uniform there. So in the US, I never had to do that. It was kind of nice, didn't have to pick out my outfit, but that was a different cultural aspect. And another thing was definitely the homes. I know here most of the roofs are kind of pretty pointy. We do get some snow, but there all of the houses were pretty flat. And your house does have a wall around it. So for security purposes, you lived in a gated community. You have to get in with a fingerprint. And then to get into your own home, there's kind of like, there's a wall that's probably about 20 feet high, and then you have your front door also locked that you have to go through. So that was also something pretty interesting that I don't think most people realize about Brazil. And then I also wanted to point out the fact that I did live on a farm when I was in Brazil for my first month. So I had to adjust to the fact that I had no Wi-Fi and no internet. So my parents were kind of a little scared when I didn't call for 3 months because I had no cell reception. So I went to a large city and called and said, you know, hey, I'm okay, I just don't have internet. But it was nice to take a step back from my life in the USA and the Twitter and the emails and the everything, you know. And I'm actually kind of coming back to that now, and it's kind of reverse shock. I'm not used to getting all the texts and calls and everything. So that's definitely something that's very interesting. The last thing I really wanted to touch on about Brazilian culture that I experienced was how lovey and touchy the culture was. I met my host family at the airport, and my brother came up and picked me up and kissed me on the cheek, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, you know? But that's totally normal. So everywhere you go, when you walk into a room, even if you don't know the person, it could be someone who's older than you or younger than you, you hug them and you kiss them on the cheek. So that was something that I definitely had to get used to, and I actually found myself doing that when I came home, and people in the USA were like, what are you doing? So it was definitely interesting to see how that has changed me, you know, even just the way that you greet people. I did have a lot of issues in the first month with the language barrier, but I found that after about a month or two of working with boobies and subtitles and my friends helping me out at school and everything, I did pick up the language, so I do speak Portuguese now. It's not perfect, but I can get by. I would call myself fluent. So that was definitely something that I really was focused on having that when I went abroad. I wanted to learn the language wherever I went. So that's something really important. The last thing I want to touch on is being an American in Brazil. It was pretty good. People have this preconceived idea of me that I was like rich and spoiled because I'm American, which is not true. So it was nice to see people who would meet me and say, oh wow, you're American, you're so nice, which is really kind of what Rotary's about. It's about spreading culture. So I was sharing with them, you know, like, hey, Americans can be nice. We can be this great, we can be, because that's such a lot of people go other places and they say, oh, rude Americans. Not all Americans are rude. So a lot of people met me and I had this great experience from it, and I'm so glad that I could leave that sort of impression on people. And then I have some pictures for you. So if you redirect your attention over here, I have some pictures of my host family. So this is actually my third host family. I had 2 little brothers, and that's my little cousin. They were 6 and 9, and we went to this museum in Sao Paulo. So this is my host mom because she's insanely tall. We always wanted to take pictures together. She does not have heels on, and I have heels on. I just want to point that out. She's so tall, yeah. So I actually had the chance to live in my third host family, and my host dad was German. So sometimes I would wake up in the morning and I was getting like German thrown at me, or Portuguese, or sometimes English. So it was just kind of like, what am I getting today? So that was definitely interesting. This is the first picture I took in Brazil. This is my first host mom. She's someone very near and dear to my heart. She's an artist, and I'm actually going to college for art education, so she took me to her painting classes. And we definitely had a really great bond. These are my first grandparents. I spent my afternoons in their home most of the time in my first family. So I would go to school, and then afterwards I would go there for lunch. And they were somebody who really helped me. You know, she taught me how to cook and a whole bunch of different things. So it was really great. These are my first and second host moms. And I'm really thankful that I had them, because my Rotary Club was all men. Most of the time I would go to my host moms instead of my Rotary Club with an issue. And they were just so willing to help me. They actually went out of their way, because my Rotary Club only had 1 family for me. There was 2 other families that stepped up to have me in their homes. So I'm very appreciative to my families. This is my first host family. I had 2 older brothers. This was Christmas time, which was a little odd to me because the seasons are opposites. So January is actually really hot there. So Christmas, I was like 90 degrees out. It's a little weird, you know, Santa Claus and swim trunks kind of thing. So this is the only picture I have with my brothers, because they only came home from college for Christmas time. And again, this is a beach trip we took. This is my first host mom. She's just someone very important to me. And I do have some pictures from my trip. This is my little brother and my second host family. He's somebody who I spend a lot of time with. I wasn't really babysitting him, but it kind of ended up being more like fun activities kind of thing. So he would go bike riding with me. We would go watch movies together, even if it was like Batman Lego. It's okay. But he helped me a lot with my Portuguese, because he wasn't afraid to tell me, hey, that's not right. That's not a sentence kind of thing. So I had a really great experience with having a little brother. This was in Rio, so I took a beach trip. This is my really good friend Isabella from Mexico. So we got to try on these crazy costumes. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Carnival, but we had these awesome costumes that we took pictures with. And this is at the beach in the Northeast, so we had these great sand dunes that we took these awesome pictures with, and just had a great photo op kind of thing. And then this was a mountain that I kind of climbed to get to the top of the beach. But this beach had this great overview, so we all went up to take pictures. But the beaches there, I don't know if you can kind of tell, I wanted to point out the fact that none of the beaches have hotels, they don't have houses. You can't have anything built on them for, I want to say, probably about a mile. And the first set of houses can only be 2 stories. So the nature there is really preserved, and they kind of seem almost deserted. So the beaches were really, really interesting. And that's all I have for you today. So thank you so much to Rotary and everything for this opportunity, and I hope that I kind of shared a little bit of my year in those 10 minutes. Thank you.
You hear that jingle? You get a lot of stuff over in Taiwan. They like to give us Rotary. I have about 6, 7 different Rotary t-shirts. I got a Rotary hat from playing softball. We We got all sorts of merchandise. So first off, I would like to thank the Rotary Club of York for sponsoring me and sending me on my long-term exchange to Taiwan. It was an amazing experience, indescribable. I don't exactly know how to put words to it. Everyone always asks, how was your exchange? And you just have to go with, it was good. So, that first photo was taken over in Kaohsiung, the major city nearby where I lived. We would take trips there often, go meet up with all the other exchange students. Taiwan's a very small country, so meeting up with each other in our district, 50 plus exchange students, is very easy. My first host family was the Jian family. My host dad was a farmer, specifically bananas, and my host mom owned a 7-Eleven. And oh yeah, free breakfast.
Keep going, technical difficulties.
Okay, technical difficulties.
There we go.
Yep, so right outside, I did live about an hour away from Pingtung City, which was where my school was located. So I'd take a bus at like 6:15 every morning just to get to school. Not exactly ideal. But we lived out in the farmland, and we would sometimes just bike over to the 7-Eleven if we were bored, and we just lived in a very beautiful area, and it was completely different than living here in York City. Because over in Taiwan, I actually became more athletic with my first host family. Towards my junior and senior year of high school, I kind of dropped my athletic side and built up my music side, and I just flip-flopped when I went to Taiwan. I learned how to play badminton, if that video is gonna show. Badminton is a hugely popular sport over in Asia. Championships, international, are held all the time. I went swimming, where I got my butt handed to me. I did pretty well for myself, but I haven't swam competitively in forever, so I didn't do too great. But I actually also had the chance to run a marathon, and I ran 32 out of 42 kilometers until I almost passed out. My dad woke me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. He said, "You're running a marathon," and I was, wait, you were serious? After we had a routine, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, after school, go out to Donggang, the seaport. We would play badminton, cool off with some swimming. It was kind of like a YMCA place. You could swim. There was like spa areas, really nice. And then we would go out and eat. You'd have hua hua, hot pot down at the bottom left. There's niuro mien, beef noodle soup, up top. And we always had like a little group of people that we always ate with together, mostly the badminton guys. With my first family, I also experienced 2 typhoons. That was fun. We lost power both times, and the first time with Typhoon Meranti, I believe the name was so severe that the 3rd floor of our house and the master bedroom on the 2nd floor flooded. So we spent the entire day shoveling water. Literally shoveling water. We had to take shovels. It was not the funnest experience, but it was an experience. My second host family, the Yang family, with my host dad, my host mom, and my host sister, who I got to see sometimes. She was up in the university up in Taipei, the capital up north. We sat down and ate meals together oftentimes. They didn't cook much. If they did bring stuff home, they just kind of reheated it in a microwave, and then we just ate that. So home-cooked meals were not usually a thing with them. They were heavy on golf. I don't know. So they had their own little putting station in the house, and I went to the golf range one time. I'm not good at golf. They also have a cute cat, Cola. It's Coca-Cola in Chinese. And towards the beginning, she was kind of mean, but she warmed up to me towards the end. My high school was the National Pingtung Boys Senior High School, Pingtung Kaohsiung. I went to school with 4 other exchange students, 2 of which, Lillian and Valeria. Lillian is Brazilian, Valeria is Mexican. They were both a part of my club. And I also went with Cadu, or Carlos, who's Brazilian, and Ramon, who is Mexican. Our school, most schools are campuses, so there's multiple different buildings. There's the music building, which it has the music suite on the 3rd floor, but the library is on the first 2 floors. The entranceway has a gate to it. It's it's crazy big. They have like 4 different basketball courts, their own track and field right in the campus. An entire building devoted to PE. That's me in my classroom. No, seriously, that's what it felt like. So the way school works over in Taiwan is you have 3 grades, and they basically just took freshman year of high school here and shoved it into middle school, and then they put sophomore, junior, and senior in high school. So I was stuck in a classroom with 15, 16-year-olds, and it was a little hard to connect with them. So my school days were not the easiest, but I did make some good friends through the choir, the Ocean Sound Choir. The choir director, she ended up convincing me to come because I helped them out one time just with some English pronunciation with one of their songs, and then she was like, "You're joining." So we ended up having a final concert at the Pingtung Performing Arts Center with, and we partnered with a the Filipino MADS a cappella group, MADC, and they're basically the Philippines Pentatonics. They're that well known and well renowned. And we also partnered with the Kaohsiung Adult Choir, and we sang a few pieces individually, and we joined together for 2 pieces, one of which, Why We Sing, is a piece that is sung by the York County Senior Honors Choir here. And I participated in that my senior year of high school, so I already knew that piece, and it was just kind of like a cool connection. One of the things about Taiwan is there are night markets literally everywhere. You can go from about 6 o'clock to 10, 11 o'clock, and you can stroll down the street and you can buy virtually anything. Electronics, food, more electronics, gerbils. And they have all sorts of different foods. There's oyster omelets, there's a sort of bubbling soda with dried ice. Diguachio is sweet potato balls, and then there's sort of fish balls on the left. It's kind of like a meatball, but just made out of fish. So this is a map of Taiwan and all the different counties. I did not get a chance to visit everywhere in Taiwan, but I did visit many different places. My county, Pingtung County, is highlighted in the red. Our district consists of Pingtung, Kaohsiung County right up to the northwest of it, and Taitung County to the east. You can click on Pingtung County, the words. So these were sort of my second family of exchange students. Mexicans, Brazilians, a Polish girl, a Japanese girl. We all got to know each other very well since we lived together. And we became sort of like another host family almost. Like we just became very close. It was very easy for us to get together after school. We'd bike over to the local department store and just hang out together. The picture on the right, I just threw that in there for fun. That's a pet shop. And we would sometimes, right after school, just go to this pet shop and play with all the animals. And at first they were kind of hesitant to let us do it, but then they just kind of gave up. And so they just expected us to come. And but we gave them attention. And we actually got to see that pet shop renovate and provide more room for the pets that were in there. And we got to see animals that were adopted and things like that. It was really cool. Pingtung is kind of a crazy city with its driving because it's not a major city. Police officers are not found everywhere, and Taiwan has some reckless drivers. My first day, or the night I went home with my first family, my host dad, he picked me up. We all piled up into his van, and we ran about 5 red lights, made an illegal turn, and we're constantly over the speed limit. And yeah, that was my experience with driving. Pingtung Baiho Rotary Club was the Rotary Club I was sponsored by. It was typically all female during the day because the men were out doing their work, and the women sort of ran the Rotary Club. The 3 of us, there's me, Lillian, and Valeria. The boy on the left, the far left, is Poyu, or James is his English name. He was my host brother for my first family, and he went on exchange to Turkey. My Rotary Club sponsored a 6K run. This was the first run I did in Taiwan. This run was sponsored to raise money to help raise awareness for dementia. Confucius Day is a pretty popular holiday. It's a day to like sort of honor teachers in Taiwan and around the world. We participated in a traditional ceremony with the temple and of giving gifts to the gods, and elected officials like the mayor and higher ups came to this temple for this ceremony, and we had the privilege and the honor of participating in it. The Pingtung Stadium was a popular hangout spot for all of us exchange students whenever they would come to Pingtung. And it was just a really big stadium. And currently, it's towards the end of the year, it's actually also under renovation. There's a lot of renovation going on in Taiwan, also with train stations and other things. They're trying to bring in new technology and make things more accessible with transportation. Go back, you can hit the arrow and go back to the map.
Pressure's killing me. Let's see. Potentially.
All right, well, I'll just continue to talk then. So, from the map you saw, like to go over to Kaohsiung, it was really easy for us to just go over to the city. It was a 30-minute train ride for $1 US. The price of living in Taiwan is very cheap. My favorite restaurant, for $2 US, you get a hot plate of noodles, an egg, and unlimited corn soup, drinks, and ice cream for $2 US. That's how cheap things are. Don't tell me the price of university. So you can go over to Kaohsiung. And well, when we would go over to Kaohsiung, we often would hang out all together.
I didn't do anything.
Click on the damage lower left with the K.
Am I ending?
Starting great. I wasn't going to help you for this
You're
reason.
doing good.
Just click on the school slide.
So I wasn't sure how this presentation would run, if I would be operating the PowerPoint or anything.
Just click on one of those. Just click.
I'll talk about, while they're fixing up the technical difficulties, I'll talk about two other things we got to do. We had 2 trips in Taiwan for our district. One was a trip to Penghu. It's a group of islands off the west coast of Taiwan. They are under the authority of Taiwan, not of China. We spent 3 days there. We participated in ceremonies, saw probably the best fireworks display I've ever seen in my life, and we got to see a fishery farm out in the ocean where they harbor fish. We harvested and cooked our own oysters as well. The other trip we got to do was the big trip around Taiwan, which was 7 days long. We spent it a lot of time on buses, and we drove around to different areas of Taiwan and got to see places that we never got to see before. In Kaohsiung, our favorite restaurant was probably a Brazilian restaurant, actually. A restaurant where we got to eat feijoado, coxinha, pão de queijo, all sorts of different Brazilian foods that were pretty delicious. So Julia's comment about Brazilian food being really good is very true. The 85 Sky Tower is the skyscraper in Kaohsiung, and it was towards the end of my exchange I got to go up to the top of it. Just a really neat experience to see things from the top. The Kaohsiung Public Library is a beautiful building. Made me really wish I lived in Kaohsiung so that I could get a library card and constantly go there. Love River is the river that runs through Taiwan. It sort of has like a rail trail that goes along the river and you can go through. You can take a public city bike to go through. Love Mountain is the mountain nearby where you can go and see a nice landscaping view of the city. It's quite a hike to get up there, but it is quite the view. So, just to wrap it up, one of the questions that I always got on the Rotary monthly report was, do you see your exchange as successful? Did you have a successful exchange so far? And it got me thinking of what you define as a successful exchange. Am I fluent in Mandarin Chinese? Not even close. My reading and writing of characters is ridiculously hard. I can speak it, I can have a conversation, but trying to read and write is difficult. Did I make many Taiwanese friends? I tried the best I could, but I did not have any close friends who were Taiwanese. While over in Taiwan, even with classmates and things like that. But at the same time, I saw myself grow. I saw myself interacting and doing things that I never would have been able to do here. I made friends who literally come from all over the world with different viewpoints, different ideas, people who I considered part of my family. I saw myself become more athletic than I have been in quite a recent time. I saw my music ability improve all over in Taiwan, seeing different aspects of music across the world and how things go. And I just wanted to say thank you, because you gave, you guys, by sponsoring me to go on this exchange, the Rotary has given me many things, things that I will take with me throughout my life, and things that I will forever be grateful for. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia and Ethan, for giving us a look into your year abroad. We hope this youth exchange experience was not only a year to remember, but also has provided you great experience for your future. We hope to see you at Rotary Club of York again, and we hope that this is just the beginning of your life in Rotary. Julia, thanks so much for that great perspective on Brazil. And Ethan, I took note on your exchange where the women ran Rotary Club. Well, I have to tell you, it's exactly the same here in York, isn't it right? As a token of our appreciation to Julia and Ethan for speaking today, we invited them to autograph book plates for this week's books, The Fault in Our Stars, which will be donated to the library at their respective high schools, Dallastown and William Penn. So again, thank you very much, and congratulations to Julia and Ethan. Thank you to all of our